Good afternoon to everyone in the Europe, Middle East and Africa, and good morning to everyone joining us in the Americas. My name is Adel Raslan and I am the Product Marketing Manager at Google AdSense, and I'm delighted to welcome Daisy Johnson, who is an M&A broker from our partners Flippa, on this webinar today. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a website valuable, from both a Google AdSense and a Flippa perspective. First of all, I'll talk through some of the ad formats that you may or may not be familiar with. We'll talk about how to optimize the performance of these ad formats. And then I'll pass you on to Daisy to talk about what makes a content site valuable. And she'll go through that a lot more. Everyone on this call should be familiar with content monetization, whether that be ads, affiliates, or sponsorship. So we'll try to keep it high level and brief on the obvious things and pass you over to Daisy for other things. This webinar is an opportunity for you to ask any questions you want. In addition, there will be a survey at the end of the webinar that appears on your right, asking for your feedback and questions. You'll also get a copy of this presentation. And then at the very end as well, Daisy will share a QR code for a conversation with her. And we also have tech consultations with AdSense at the end of this webinar as well, where you can speak to one of our vendor team who will look through your website specifically and give you guidance and advice building on this webinar. So as all of you know, there are two types of formats that we use at Google AdSense. You have ad units, which is the manual version, which is the kind of historic version, and then you have auto ads. Today, we'll focus mostly on auto ads, but we can touch very briefly on manual ads first. As many of you will know, there are two types of manual ads. Many people, publishers like yourselves, like the old school way of using manual ads, controlling where specific ads appear and how. And there are two types. So there's obviously display ads, and these are the standard ads that you see across the web. They're the most common and they're a recommended option, and they work well across your sites in different areas and locations. The second type of manual ads are native ads, and these are the ads that look and feel like part of your website and are meant to be less intrusive to your readers. And they come in three different ways: in article, in feed, or multiplex. However, that said, at Google, we're currently trying to encourage publishers like yourselves to use auto ads. And there are many reasons for this. Firstly, we believe that they help increase your revenue. These ads analyze your pages and find new places to show ads based on your specific layout, content, and existing ads. Secondly, they're easy to use. You only need one piece of code to get you started. And after you've placed that code, auto ads will automatically adjust any changes you make to your site and your ad settings. And then thirdly, these are tailor-made. You can customize them based on your specific needs. You can exclude certain areas, pages, and entire URL paths. And there are several different formats within auto ads. Again, you may be very familiar with them, so I won't dwell on them. There are banner ads, multiplex ads, and related search. Banner ads, as you know, are in-page ad units that show display or native ads. They're very responsive, and they have a great user experience while maximizing your earnings. Multiplex ads are a type of native ads again that serve multiple ads in a grid within an ad unit. They're pretty good at the end of articles or in sidebars to effectively monetize the end of a user's journey or a page or a site. Having spoken to many publishers at events or webinars such as this, we know that changing a site's code is the last thing that some of you want to do. However, sometimes you do want more control over your auto ad setup. So over the last couple of years, we've developed fine-tuned controls to offer publishers like yourselves more flexibility around the powerful automation we offer. So you just switch a toggle on and scroll to the optimal level of ads on your website. As you can see here from this slide, you have the option to adjust the maximum number of ads or the minimum distance between them to set constraints on placement. Even though you all use ads, we are very aware that there has to be a balance between monetization and user experience. So this allows you to find that optimum and balance the two needs. As always, we work hard to improve our products even more. So there will be additional controls like specific formats on particular pages due to launch next year. Another type of auto ads are overlay formats. And these include things that like anchors or side rails or vignettes, things that appear over the text for a few seconds or so, but allow the reader and the visitors to your site to close them down after they've seen it or don't want to view them. In addition to auto ads, one of the areas that we've been improving and working on recently at AdSense is ad intents. And if you're not familiar with ad intents, these leverage Google's AI and user action to show relevant ads that open up in a drawer. And these appear in three ways, as you can see on the slide. They appear as links. So the Google's AI converts commercial terms within your text into clickable links. Secondly, it adds chips in between page breaks, where you can see in the middle. And then thirdly, it creates anchor ads. So it adds relevant topics as an anchor to the bottom of your page. This is very easily implemented. You just go to the AdSense dashboard and click on Ads. And in the table of your sites, you click Edit next to your site, and you'll then see it in the ad settings preview. Auto ads should have already been on, and you click on Overlay, and then you select the ad formats that you'd like to turn on. And you can use advanced settings here to optimize the additional settings. For example, if you wanted to show a vignette ad, you can change the frequency to 1 minute if you wanted more revenue, or you can change it to 10 minutes to have a less intrusive experience for your readers. Something else that we're really working on at the moment is Offer Wall. And this sits in the privacy and messaging section of AdSense. It's super easy to implement and is a rewarded ad system in a codeless manner. You can customize the logo and the message shown on the offer wall to suit your site and publication. And the way this works is that users access content on your site until they reach a page view threshold that you set yourselves. And when this threshold is reached, users will see your offer wall. If the user chooses to view a short ad, a video, or image ad, it will play for 30 seconds or less. And following the completion of the ad, the user will be granted access to your site again. However, if the user chooses not to view a short ad, access to your site might be restricted until their page views reset again or until they choose to see an ad. Something that we're really keen to promote at AdSense at the moment, having spoken to publishers, and that will make your sites valuable, going back to the original title, is optimizing your sites for performance. We know that you work very hard on producing content, writing content, and keeping your audiences. So this section will talk about how to kind of preview auto ads, how to exclude ad areas, and experiment with ads. First of all, if you're new to using auto ads, or you're currently using auto ads, you can use the preview page, which gives you a view of how the ads will appear on your site before they go live. You can also switch between mobile and desktop views as well. Similarly, something that we hear a lot from publishers at events is the ability to block or limit where ads show on your site. And you definitely have the option to give us, AdSense, a signal of where you don't want an ad to appear You click on the area and you can label it as excluded, and an ad won't show in those areas. Similarly, we hear from many publishers, designers, and website owners that brand safety is important. With Google's controls, you can really go on a granular level. You can decide which brands advertise on your site or don't. You can decide which creatives appear on your site. You can limit trashy ads that may detriment your website. And you can also see as well with our creative insights tools, individual performance of an ad, how many impressions, how many click-throughs, the revenue that you get from a specific ad placement and a specific advertiser. So that's something that's very important that we encourage you to use. Additionally, we have further plans to add troubleshooting tools to seamlessly find, review, and block bad and unwanted ads in the coming months. We really want to help you have an improved experience with AdSense to make it even easier to manage your brand safety. And if you're still not convinced and are having analysis paralysis, look at some data using A/B testing, and you can build experiments within AdSense, test, trial, and error, which is what we think works really well because no ad format works for everyone across all publishers. Every publisher is different, everyone's needs are different. And you can run experiments with Google AdSense. There are 3 ways of doing this. The first one is auto optimize on, which is what we recommend. Google will run experiments on your traffic and automatically apply any improvements for you. Number 2, on with auto apply off. Google will run experiments on your traffic and suggest improvements. You choose the winner and apply any improvements yourselves. To do this, you visit the experiments page and click either keep original or apply variation, depending on the outcome of your experiments. And then thirdly, if you don't want to experiment or you've had enough, you can turn auto optimize off, and Google won't run any experiments on your traffic. Again, this slide just says that you're always in control of your settings. Even if you use auto ads or optimize or experiments, as with everything with AI, it's there to help you, help to guide you, but ultimately you still have control when and where you want it. And then this is a very simple dashboard as well that you can see in AdSense to understand your experiment details and see what works, what doesn't, and how to make your sites more valuable, how to generate the most amount of money from the content that you work very hard on and optimize it and make it a valuable site. And with that, I will pass you on to Daisy to talk about her expertise, her experience of working with content sites in buying and selling it. Thank you, Daisy. Daisy, you're on mute.
So sorry about that. Sorry, everyone.
We didn't hear any of the beginning. Please start again.
Sorry about that. Great start. Okay, I'll rewind and start again. So I was just saying thank you, Adol, for the introduction and for handing over to me. Second time lucky. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm really excited to speak to you about what makes a content site valuable. But firstly, I'm just going to give a quick introduction to myself, a quick overview of the agenda, and then jump into the slides. So as you now know, my name is Daisy Johnson. I'm an M&A broker and I represent Flippa. I'm based in London, but cover the EMEA markets more broadly. So I manage sellers' listings, so assets that they are selling who are based in EMEA. The business could be based anywhere though, as long as the seller's location is in EMEA. And I speak to buyers globally, as our network of buyers is global, but I specifically focus on bringing new listings onto the marketplace. So I've actually spent over 10 years in the finance industry, previously having spent nearly 9 years at Goldman Sachs, and I moved to Flippa coming up 2 years ago. Very excitingly, I've recently closed my 100th deal. So that's a quick introduction to me. Now I'm going to run you over the agenda for today. I will be giving an overview of content site valuations, looking at what's selling on Flippa at the moment, talking to exit planning, and then also a bit about the buyer landscape and what that looks like. So, looking at what makes a content site valuable, there are a few key factors. The first one being revenue, consistency, and diversification. So, there are multiple income streams that go into producing the revenue of a content site, such as revenue from ads or affiliates, digital products, sponsorships. And some of these might be tied to long-term partnerships, which can show revenue stability, or say subscriptions are tied to recurring revenue, which often is something that buyers would be looking for. It's also important to have a lean cost structure with strong margins. Naturally, also, we're looking for strong SEO, so consistent traffic from multiple sources, although it's important to mention that traffic from organic search is still king. Also, it's important to have your site resilient against algorithm changes where possible. So you can do that by looking at creating, quality content, and also having high engagement metrics. So, the time spent on page and repeat visitors and so forth. Also, something very important to mention is about being a go-to source in a specific defensible niche. So something that people seek out directly, having a strong backlink profile, media mentions perhaps, or a strong social media following, a strong and engaged, audience and active email subscribers, also strengthens the value of your business. I touched on having quality content as well. So buyers do value well-researched and evergreen niches, or content that's actually expert-driven is seen as valuable. AI is obviously a huge topic at the moment worldwide. And so that comes in here. So having a moat against AI generated generic content is key at the moment. And having a content that is defensible and has growth potential that aligns with long-term trends perhaps. So that could be AI, for example, or sustainability, health, personal finance, and so forth. These are seen as very defensible niches. Another thing to mention is also just longevity and, having a site that's been around a long time. So you've shown proven revenue, proven that the site works. It's not just been around for 1 or 2 years, for example. And then, of course, having low maintenance and operational efficiency can drive high multiples. So something else I would add is, having documented SOPs there. So standard operating procedures means that it can be lower maintenance, more operationally efficient, and so forth. And then also having outsourced or automated workflows that don't rely solely on the founder. If the business relies too much on the founder, that means that you can potentially limit the buyer pool, because buyers would then need to take over the business as if they were the founder or hire someone to do that. Whereas if you can reduce the reliance on the buyer, this can strengthen the value of the business. So kind of leading on from that, we're looking at how to, value the content site. So we talked about how to make it valuable, but how do we actually value it? So very importantly, we do look at the financials. We want to see consistent and growing profit. I mentioned age before as well. Older sites with a clean track record are worth more in general. We check, SEO and domain authority, so the backlink profile, ranking history, and so forth. The quality of the hang on, is my there? Sorry, I thought my presentation had disappeared. So SEO and domain authority, I mentioned, then audience quality. So we'd be looking at the location of the audience, demographics, loyalty and returning visitors, time spent on page, and so forth. And then traffic and engagement. So we're looking for stable or growing trends there. Now, we look at the valuation based on a profit multiple, and that's based on the last 12 months trailing profit. So typical multiples are between 2 to 4 times the annual profit. And then looking at the top decile in the first half of 2025, which is our most recent data, as we do it per half year, it was 4.16 times the last 12 months trailing profit. So moving on further to actually what is selling on Flippa. So not only do we sell content sites, but we sell all sorts of online businesses and digital assets. So you can see here that the AI tools and plugins, the demand from buyers is up, or the actual number of sites sold is 200, up 200% year on year. And you can see the various percentages there of how the business is growing. Content falls into that 31% up, along with YouTube. And SaaS and AI tools is also very much booming, and it just shows a appetite for digital assets in general in the market today. Now, something else we also track on Flippa on our data insights page, which you can have access to if you sign up for a Flippa account, which is free, by the way. If you want to be a premium buyer, you have to pay for that. And that means that you get access to listings 21 days before regular users that have a free account. Actually, at the end of the presentation, I will show a QR code that you can scan in order to book a meeting with me, and we can talk about that further if you would like. Anyway, going back to the keyword search that you can find on our data insights page, this actually just tracks the words that are being input in our search bar when people go on the website and search for businesses. If you total AdSense, travel, and blog, which all constitute content sites, it then ranks as the second highest search Flippa asset next to Shopify, which obviously falls under e-commerce. I think also something key to mention here is that Flippa does over 12,000 transactions annually. So you can see the amount of keyword searches and searches done all kind of rolls up into that 12,000 transactions. Now, looking at planning for an optimal transaction, so whether that's, you're buying or selling, I'm going to start with exit preparation, so more from a seller's perspective here. Preparation is absolutely key. I'd say the most important thing when people ask me for tips on preparing for their exit is just have all your financials in order. So as I previously said, in order to value the business, we look at the last 12 months trading profit. So you need to have a P&L in order for the last 12 months, but actually really for the past 3 years. This is what buyers will ask for when they go in to do full due diligence. So it's important to have, all your ducks in a row in terms of having your financials together. As you also go further into due diligence with buyers, they will want to actually tick and tie back that profit. So you might need to produce bank statements and so forth. This is obviously all done under an NDA, and everything's put into a data room, which Flippa facilitate for you, which I'll go on to shortly. And in order to actually list on Flippa, you'll need a proof of revenue in general anyway, the P&L, and a proof of traffic. Something else that you should have in order and at hand are any contracts that you might have. So that could be with affiliates, advertisers, sponsors, or any brand partnerships that you have in place. And then obviously we're tracking metrics as well. So you'll need to have awareness of what your churn rate is, your lifetime value, the number of active subscribers, what the revenue split is, and all the traffic metrics that we touched on before. Moving on to now about what the process looks like. So this is for buyers and sellers. So moving through this timeline, we start with the company valuation. So incorporating everything that we've run through so far is just understanding, learning about the company, and reviewing the P&L. Once that's all in order and we've agreed a valuation, we then move over to the marketing prep. So that's where I'd gather documents into a data room, produce a digital IM for you. So this is something that's actually really exciting about Flippa, is that there's no, presentation that's produced and so forth. It's actually all wrapped up into a digital IM on our website. So here you can actually also put integrations in. So you can link to things like QuickBooks, Xero, like Amazon and so forth, whatever it might be, you can link there and it will show the real-time data. And then within the description, I will write up everything on the basis of the information that I've received from my seller. So we'll cover off things like financials, obviously some key highlights there, any marketing strategies and so forth. And importantly as well, the reason for selling the business. Once that's all done, and that usually takes, around a week to get everything prepared, we can then go into the buyer prospecting period. So it usually can take around 3 months to find a buyer, give or take. It could take a week, it could take 6 months, it depends. But as kind of a ballpark figure, I'd say around 3 months. We have various methods of how we actually do the buyer prospecting process. So we actually have an AI integration into the platform. So that means buyers and sellers or buyers are matched to listings automatically through buyers having input their criteria on their profile when they sign up for Flippa. This is a really powerful tool that we have, and it's the way that we get many of those 12,000 deals done annually. But also, if you have a broker on the deal, you get access to a much wider, broader reach with buyers. So I will go out and do the prospecting for you as I have access to our database. On the database, we actually have over 2 million registered users, buyers and sellers, and some a combination of both. I'll move on to the buyer pool shortly and speak more to that. And then also I naturally have, my own buyer prospecting strategies, including my own mandates that, although I don't actively manage, I do have them and speak regularly to those buyers. Next, we would then move into the negotiation period. So that's when we would manage Q&A. That's when sellers would really need to help here to kind of delve into the details of their business. That's their expertise. And then I will help negotiate any LOIs, so letters of intent. Letters of intent can actually be submitted directly on the platform. We have an LOI builder. And we also have an APA builder when we get to that stage. APA is Asset Purchase Agreement for anyone who isn't aware. We can also process share purchases as well, so SPAs. But we only have a inbuilt Asset Purchase Agreement, as the vast majority of our deals are done based on an APA. Other integration that we have, which is useful, is NDAs. So we would have an NDA in place before buyers can actually, it needs to be electronically accepted before buyers can view the listing. Then the LOI, then the APA. And then once we've actually gone forwards with an LOI, the full due diligence is done. That's when that APA is drawn up and you can choose to use the builder. There's also the option at this point, when we move towards transaction finalization, to take out insurance. We have a partner who offers this service, and it's all actually integrated within the platform. So there'll be a tab at the top of what we refer to as the deal room, which is the messaging window between the buyer and the seller and myself, and where we can track the progress of the deal. And we also offer a due diligence service as well for certain types of deals. So that's if a buyer wants to kind of have Flippa's assistance in carrying out their due diligence. That does come at an extra cost. Otherwise, then once everything's finalised, we move to actually transferring the funds in and transferring the assets over. So the asset transfer is done between the buyer and the seller. Flippa doesn't process the asset transfer, but what we do is process the actual funds themselves, so that part of the transaction. The buyer can transfer the funds into our Flippa Pay account. And that's also a fee that the buyer pays, by the way. The seller just pays our success fee. And our fees are very transparent. They're on our website, so you can go there and find them, flippa.com/pricing. And then once the asset transfer is done, the buyer confirms to us and Flippa releases the funds to the seller. In summary, obviously there are all sorts of deal structures, but as high level, that's how it works. So now talking a little bit further about the buyer pool. So we assist all types of buyers globally to acquire assets. We have 400,000 active buyers on the platform weekly. So of the 2 million users, or over 2 million, there are 400,000 buyers who are active weekly. And also what I found really impressive when I joined the company is that these buyers have on average 6 businesses already in their portfolio. I thought it was going to be, 1, 2 or so forth, but actually it's 6. And you can see there are some examples there at the bottom of buyers that we have on the platform. As I mentioned, all types though. So although we have these kind of institutional buyers, we have strategic acquirers as well, family offices and individuals, so mum and pops who perhaps just want to buy their first business and maybe want it as a retirement thing or various sorts of things. So and you can see there also the buy liquidity is a huge figure there. So there's lots of funds to be deployed between those buyers. Important to also mention that I kind of touched on before that I have my own network of buyers off platform as well. So if you are to use our broker service, so have me or one of my equivalents manage your listing, you would also have access to our personal networks of buyers that we've built up over our time at the company and in industry. So I'm going to run through a couple of success stories now, just examples of deals that have been done on Flippa. So here we have Typing Test, which sold for $2.5 million. This is an example of a strategic acquisition. And this business was exceptionally well prepared for exit. They had a high number of monthly users, high margins, 25 years of operating history, and they were really lined up to get a really good valuation there and have a very successful exit. You can see here that the seller location was Finland and the buyer location is in the US. Actually, 85% of our deals are cross-border. I think that really represents just how global Flippa is by nature. We aren't limited by geographical location in terms of getting a deal done, by time zones and so forth. We just like to have someone like myself as a broker managing sellers within their time zone, as that's who we're kind of actively working with on the listings. But we can do deals cross-border, absolutely no issue. Oh, and also within Flippa Pay and how we actually process the transactions, we can take in various currencies and pay out on various currencies as well. Another success story. So this is an example of a smaller deal at $170,000. It was again a well-established business of 8 years old. Although I do manage deals of kind of a strong 6-figure valuation, I also focus on the 7 and 8-figure valuation range. And this business showed really strong actually organic traffic as well. Important to highlight there on the slide. So 65% of traffic was from organic search. So thank you so much for listening. No doubt there are questions which, as Adel mentioned, we will answer shortly. But I just wanted to show you this slide here, which is the QR code that I mentioned earlier that you can scan if you'd like to book a call with me, if you are actively looking to buy or sell a business. Thank you so much. Oh, Adel, I can't hear you now.
Thank you so much, Daisy. I really appreciate that overview and really helpful, and I hope our attendees found it helpful too. A couple of questions that were asked about practicality. Is it recorded? Yes, this webinar is recorded. And if you fill in the survey form that has either already appeared or will appear on the right-hand side of the webinar, you will get this slide deck as well, with the QR code to arrange a meeting with Daisy, and also QR code that I'll show you in a minute to talk to one of our tech teams. One of the questions that was asked was about do auto ads affect core web vitals and various things like CLS. So looking at vignettes specifically, among others, we've done some research around this and found that auto ads, when used responsibly, including vignettes, they don't seem to have a negative impact on it. you can see that they don't move the layout of the page as they appear in a separate window on top of the content. So I hope that allays fears. Another question that obviously is very hot for myself is there are obviously, as you mentioned, Daisy, as well, there are emerging AI trends and that the AI overviews are impacting web search sites. Look, being candidly honest with you all, we know that initially AI overviews are reducing traffic to websites, but we are also seeing, if you look at the Google blog page and Google Help Centers, we're seeing that users who use AI overviews actually click on the links and the sources and spend more time on those pages because they want to delve in deeper and get a better kind of understanding of what they've read on the AI overviews. So we are still seeing many publishers making reasonable amounts of money on using AdSense, etc. Another question, and then Daisy, I'll pass it over to you, is after this one, is do AI generated images affect website SEO and AdSense revenue? No, AI generated images do not, but as a general warning, obviously AdSense values good quality original content. So using AI to write content, originate content is helpful, but you should have a human obviously looking at them and making it a bit more original. Daisy, I'm going to pass on questions to you. If you give me a good, here we go.
So what are the top 3 things buyers on Flippa look for when valuing an AdSense content site? So hopefully I kind of touched on some of those things in my presentation, but I'd say, it really is important to have a growing business more generally. So you want to see profits, on the up. You want to see growing traffic metrics and so forth. It really is just about having a business that's looking really positive rather than a business that's kind of going downhill. I understand that sometimes sellers actually decide, oh, I'm going to hold on to my business. It's doing really great. And then it starts going down. They think, oh, actually, I want to sell now. And they're selling on a down. It's hard, sometimes hard, but it's the best place to sell when you're on the up, and you have the best chance of getting the highest multiple. Then, if your performance is going down, so along all sorts of metrics, then it means that buyers are going to be able to negotiate more with you on the price.
Thank you. There's another pre-submitted question before we go to a live question. You've mentioned what makes the site valuable. And I think this is actually, this is a question that was pre-submitted, but also just submitted now, and I'll read the one that's just submitted. We've been running Google inventory on our sites for over a decade. This presentation is a bit of a head scratcher because as far as I'm aware, AdSense accounts used to not be transferable through Flippa sales. Can you explain whether or not that's still the case? In your opener, Adel, you describe Flippa as your partners. Can you explain the relationship between Google and Flippa, if any? I can take the first part. So thank you so much for this question. And it's very observant of you. So for the last year or so, Google and Flippa have been working closely to host events, webinars, and tutorials, because ultimately we both support the same kind of partners within the digital ecosystem, publishers, gaming sites. And we're on a mission to educate, obviously, our own client bases as well as one another's of these aspects and the benefits. But at least from my point of view, and maybe Daisy can elaborate, you're quite right. You can't sell or transfer an AdSense account per se, but obviously when you're selling a site or website, and Daisy can hopefully elaborate, you can demonstrate how much this site with this much traffic would earn you in revenue if someone were to set up their own a new AdSense account following the same kind of processes and systems?
Thanks, Adil. So yes, there are ways of doing the asset transfer. As I mentioned, Flippa doesn't actually process the asset transfer. We don't have a team who does that, and that's also not what comes into my remit as a M&A broker. But there are ways around it, and otherwise you wouldn't be able to, sell content sites that have AdSense accounts as well. That's something that, as and when you come to do a transaction, we can kind of provide guidance on. But essentially, it's processed between the buyer and the seller. I wouldn't say it should ever be a blocker, though. Obviously, the deals do happen. So if that person, or there are multiple people on the call who are thinking, "Oh, I can't sell my site because of this," but you are looking to sell, and feel free to call with me and we can discuss further.
Thanks, Daisy.
So I've seen another question that's come in. Is there a fee to list your business, but then it doesn't sell? So I think you're asking, do I have to pay even if my business doesn't sell? Right, so there are two fees that are paid by the seller. The first one is a listing fee. The listing fee depends on the price of the actual business and also the package that you want to buy. So there are various packages that you can buy, and one of them includes a broker. So that would be me to manage the sale for you, essentially. But you can also pay a lot less just to list on the platform without me guiding you through the process or doing the buyer prospecting for you and so forth, and not having that wide reach. But buyers can still go on, search, and then your business would come up in our search results. Essentially, you would manage all the conversations with the buyers and so forth. And also, to give you some context on that, the deal that I was actually working on this morning has nearly 400 buyers interested in the deal room. And that's because of my efforts as a broker to draw as much attention as I can possible. Whereas if you're just to list without a broker, you wouldn't get that sort of reach. So that's why there's the difference in price. You're more likely to get a deal done and done more quickly if you have someone from Flippa helping you. So there's that fee. Now, that listing fee lasts for 6 months. If at the 6-month point the business isn't sold, then you can choose to renew it or not. If there's a letter of intent in place and we're going through a deal process, you're not going to get charged again. We're on the way to getting the deal done. But if there's nothing going on, we can decide, if we want to re-strategize, if you're working with me, if you want to just keep it on and keep it going, or if you say, actually, I don't want to sell it anymore, that's okay. But that period is an exclusivity period with Flippa, and it lasts 6 months before it's rebilled. But the main fee is the success fee. That is not paid by the seller unless the deal is completed successfully. The success fee is a percentage of the final valuation. So say if we sell your business for $1 million, a percent of that is paid for Flippa, and it's on a sliding scale depending on what that valuation is. Again, you can see that on our website, so flippa.com/pricing. Everything's on there, super transparent. Hopefully that answers your questions. And I think also, in case it's of interest for me to recap, fees for buyers. So that's just that Flippa Pay fee. We actually have two ways that you can process a transaction, to process the payment. So one is you can use escrow.com, and we do work with them. And the other one is Flippa Pay. So we used to only use escrow.com, and the fee for them is 0.7% of the valuation of the business. So again, it would be, if you're paying $1 million, it's 0.7% of that is the fee that you pay for the escrow. But we found that working with escrow.com, it's a third party, it caused a few delays, it was a little bit clunky. So we actually created Flippa Pay to improve all of this and make the transaction process a lot smoother for the buyer and the seller. Because of course, this is the most important point, the money exchange. It always is in any transaction, right? So we wanted to make sure it's as smooth as possible. And we actually also only charge 0.5%. So that's 20 bips lower than what escrow.com charge. So if you ask me, maybe I'm biased, I'd go with Flippa Pay. But we do offer those two options. And that's it for the buyer. No more fees, unless you want a premium account.
Thank you so much, Daisy. I can see other questions as well regarding the tech aspects of AdSense. I can see that there are a few questions saying, I've clicked on this exclusion area and it hasn't worked. Can I exclude the banner on all of the pages, etc. And without looking at, obviously, your individual sites, I'm really sorry that I can't comment. But if you look at this, if you click on this, scan this QR code for consultation, you can see the timings for our tech team, who can actually sit with you for half an hour, running through your site, looking at the issues, troubleshooting it, finding issues why it's not working, teaching you how to optimize, how to experiment. And I really recommend, and this is completely free of charge, completely here to help and guide you on all issues, technical, AI, but also questions like, if you are in a small market, how do you increase your revenue when there is a limited audience? So I would strongly recommend scanning this QR code. Please do fill in our survey, as we love your feedback, good or bad, as well. And let me see if there are any more questions. I think that is all of our questions today. But thank you so much, Daisy, and thank you everyone for joining us. Please do fill in the survey to get a copy of the recording and the slides.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.